Welcome to Macero Garage.
Hello.
In today's video, we're going to show you guys how we reupholster these beds. It's originally from El Camino, but this one will be going in our 1977 Chevy Nova. We bought this upholstery kit from First Place Auto Parts. They were great to deal with. It's originally manufactured by PUI Interiors, and the quality, it's great. So we definitely recommend doing this.
Reupholstering this was a ton of work, and we hit a few struggles along the way, but it's totally doable at home, and we saved a ton of money instead of taking it to an upholstery shop. So if you want to find out how we did it, stick around.
Here we have the frame that we refinished in our previous video. We're gonna start by taking our foam and putting it over the frame.
Our foam has this metal bar built in. It needs to slip right over the hook that's on the frame, and then we can close it like this.
Our next step will be to take the upholstery kit and test fit it over the bends. Then we'll see if we need to make any adjustments to our foam. As you can see, it looks pretty empty over here, so we'll fix that by adding some cotton batting.
We are reusing this old upholstery wire from the old kit that we removed from the bench. If you don't have this wire, you can use a coat hanger, it'll work just fine. It's very important to use this wire. If not, the hog rings will rip right through the fabric.
We're going to secure the metal wire by putting a hog ring to one of the springs. Now we're gonna begin hog ringing the back part of the seat to the metal wire. We're gonna start from the middle, working our way to the corners. Carefully pull down the upholstery to cover the bends.
Here I am trying to smooth out the welts of the upholstery. I really find that the more you work it, the more supple it becomes, and the easier it is to fit over the cushion. When we refinished the frame of the bench before, we didn't realize that some of these hog ring hooks were broken or missing, and along here on the side there just aren't any anywhere. So we're gonna have to fix that. Since we already painted over the frame, we have to use a Dremel to expose the bare metal so that hopefully we can get some good welds later.
It looks like this will hold up. We're putting a little bit of primer and paint because we just hate rust.
We decided to use some cotton batting here in the front of the bench to fill that gap that you saw earlier. Now we're ready to hog ring. If you look really closely, you can see how this weld pops off when we fix the hog ring to it. So later on we decided to do some new welds, as you can see here, with stronger metal.
We called PUI Interiors, which is the manufacturer of this upholstery kit, and we asked about this plastic tab because we were not familiar with it. Other reupholstery we've done with hog ring throughout the whole thing, and they told us that this plastic is specifically for hog ringing. However, we saw some pieces of plastic that were starting to break, so we didn't feel comfortable with this and we just added some plastic JB weld. Use a box cutter to cut the fabric and have the metal nuts poke through it.
We're going in with more cotton batting here in the corner to try to remove some of those wrinkles. Here you can clearly see that plastic edging that PUI told us we could hog ring through, but when we removed the old upholstery kit, that was glued down to the inside of the frame, and so we decided to do the same, especially because there aren't even any hog ring hooks to hog ring to. So this is what we ended up doing. After the JB plastic weld had dried, we finished pulling the upholstery over the back of the frame.
So we have these flaps and they all have to be folded in a specific order. The first one is the unlined side piece. The second one is the bottom piece. And the third one has to be first folded in before you push it down. Make sure this one is very tight when you hog ring through it. We're pretty happy with this look. We'll repeat it in the other side. After finishing the second side, we are going to put hog rings in the corners to secure to the frame. Now we're pulling really tight in the back of the upholstery and we're putting some hog rings to the springs. And once more we're starting in the middle and working our way to the corners. Since this upholstery kit doesn't come with seatbelt holes pre-cut, I'm using a box cutter and cutting through the fabric, and then I will put the flaps through the hole.
When we test fit our armrest cover, we realized that it came from PUI sewn incorrectly. That small flap should be on the inside of the large flap, not the way that you see it here. We called First Place Auto Parts, which is where we got the upholstery kit from, and their customer service was great. We sent our incorrect one and they returned a correct one within a couple weeks. In one of the backrests, all of the hog ring hooks were broken as well, so we had to fix them. We test fitted our backrest and we realized that we had to fix the foam. We're going to start by tracing the sides of the cushion to then cut out the size in the foam, and then we'll glue it onto the sides of the cushion later. We're using this hot knife that we got at Harbor Freight for like 10 bucks, but if you don't have one of these, a typical handsaw will work just fine. This is 2-inch low density foam that we got off Amazon, and we'll be using it for the center of the backrest.
To glue the foam, we're using a paint gun, an air compressor, and Weldwood top and trim cement. We got this off a local upholstery shop. Check to see if you can do this because it's way cheaper than buying a whole gallon of it. We're making sure to spray the adhesive in both pieces of foam before we put them together.
After the adhesive is set, we're using our hot knife again to try to emulate the shape of the cushion that the seat had before. Once we had the approximate shape of the foam, we decided to sand it down to give it a little bit more form. We tried to use our orbital sander, but it did absolutely nothing, so we decided to just sand it by hand.
Our next step is to glue the foam to the backrest frame, and then we'll glue the side pieces of foam to our cushion.
We decided we wanted to go with a little bit more of an old school sporty look, so we're doing away with the headrest bracket and we're going to be headrestless.
We put a plastic bag over the backrest so that installing the upholstery kit would be easier. It was a little bit of a fight, but having two people helps a lot. Here we're making sure that as we install the upholstery, the seams line up correctly. You can do a little bit of adjustment at the end, but not so much. So it's a good idea to keep checking on the seam as you keep installing the upholstery.
Just as before, make sure that you adjust the seams and the welts before putting hog rings. Ho ho ho! And a bottle of rum, which is what we're going to need after doing this bench. And again, we're using our cotton batting to fill some of these wrinkles that are in the corners.
Here we are cutting a hole in the fabric for the backrest lever. We are doing the same thing for the metal legs.
We need a piece of wire for the backrest cover. Here I'm using a wire hanger like I mentioned before.
Starting in the middle, we are hog ringing the back of the backrest to the frame. Now we are going to turn it around and hog ring the bottom flap to the same hog ring hooks.
This corner was a little tricky, but we figured out that all of these tabs have to be pushed down into the frame. Now this inside flap is ready to be hog ringed right here to the frame. This one gets hog ringed straight up. And this final flap also gets stuck down into the frame there. And the unlined piece of vinyl gets hog ringed straight down. And finally, it's time to reinstall the hardware. Feel around for where the holes are in the frame and use your punch to poke a hole in the vinyl. Instead of buying all new hardware, we decided to try and clean up these old T50 bolts that were taken off the bench. And we're ready to reinstall our newly refinished trim pieces that cover this part of the frame. It's very important to make sure that these holes line up correctly, or else the backrest won't fit in properly. Then we reinstalled this little tab to secure the backrest in place. After we received the correct armrest cover from First Place Auto, we test fitted it and saw that we needed to fix some of the foam. To fix this dead section of foam, we decided to cut open the cushion to then stuff new foam down in there. And to try to solidify it, we gave it a light dusting of Gorilla Glue adhesive. Just like with the backrest, we covered the armrest with a plastic bag in order to get the cover to slip on much easier.
This piece of fabric seemed to be too long, so we just roll it up a little bit and then hog wind through it. Here we are installing the support armrest bracket. We are going to make sure that the holes that are on the foam are aligned perfectly so that we can put our 4 7/16 bolts. In the upholstery that we removed, this plastic tab was stapled to the plastic cover. So we attempted to do the same. This turned out to be a real nightmare. The stapler that we had was not strong enough to go through both plastics. So after fighting with it for a little bit of time and using a hammer, we managed to get a few staples to go through. So we decided that would be good enough. We are almost there. Now we're just going to make sure that the holes in the plastic cover line up really well with the holes in the vents, and we will install our 7/16 bolts.
One of the last steps is replacing these little plastic tabs that hold the cover for the bolts in the armrest. Just hit it with a hammer and it should just pop right in. And the absolute final step in reassembling this bench is installing those freshly painted backrest hinge covers.
It was a lot of work and we hit numerous roadblocks, but we are so happy with how it turned out. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. I know this was a long video, but it was kind of necessary to show you all the steps, so I hope you guys enjoyed it.
And as you can see, we're clearly not professionals, but we learned a ton along the way, and it turned out pretty good, and we're happy with it.
Yeah, so I hope that this gives you guys confidence to order your upholstery kit and do it yourself. Save some money.
And if you like the video down below. Leave us your comments, but most importantly, subscribe because we're going to be putting so many new videos coming soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.